The sky was burning red. The city of New Haven lay in ruins. Smoke rising from broken towers like black ghosts of war. Humans ran through the streets shouting, crying, searching for safety where none existed. The war had come to Earth. And this time, humanity was losing high above the chaos. A huge alien warship floated in silence, dark and smooth like a shadow made of steel. Its engines hummed with strange energy, bending the clouds around it from the ship's belly. Smaller crafts dropped like glowing knives. Cutting through the smoke and fire, they carried the soldiers of Zarthon, the alien empire that ruled half the galaxy, and leading them was Commander Rylan, the most feared warlord among the stars. Rylan stood tall on the landing platform as his dropship touched the ground. His armor shone with silver light, engraved with the mark of his clan. His eyes glowed faintly blue, not with emotion but with power. He was not here for war. He was here for something or someone down below. Captain Emily Hayes was giving orders to what was left of her squad. Her face was dirty, her uniform torn, but her eyes burned with courage. She refused to run, even when others begged her to leave. "This is our city," she said, gripping her rifle. "We fight till the end." Her words gave strength to the soldiers, but deep inside she knew the truth. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and out of time. The sky cracked open as alien ships fired beams of blue light. Tearing through buildings, Emily shouted for her team to fall back. But the ground shook beneath them. The enemy had arrived. Rylan stepped forward, calm and cold. He watched the human soldiers scatter like sand in the wind. One of his lieutenants aimed a plasma weapon at them. But Rylan raised his hand. "Take the captain alive," he ordered. His voice deep and sharp. "She's the one." Emily saw the aliens closing in. Tall, armored, their movements too fast for human eyes. She fired again and again, hitting one, then two. But they didn't fall. Her heart pounded. Her ears rang with explosions. She ducked behind a broken wall, breathing hard. Then the wall exploded beside her, and the shockwave threw her to the ground. When she opened her eyes, she saw boots made of dark metal standing inches from her face. She lifted her head and her gaze met his. Rylan, the alien warlord, looked down at her with cold curiosity. His face was strange but beautiful, carved with sharp lines and pale markings that glowed faintly under his skin. For a moment time froze, neither moved, neither spoke. Then Emily reached for her weapon, but he was faster. His hand closed around her wrist like steel. He pulled her to her feet, his voice low and controlled. "You're brave, human," he said, "but foolish." Emily tried to fight. Kicking, punching, twisting, he didn't even flinch. Her strength was nothing compared to his. "Let me go," she shouted. He leaned closer, his glowing eyes locking onto hers. "You're mine now," he said quietly. "You belong to me." She froze, anger and fear mixing inside her. "I don't belong to anyone," she spat. His mouth curved into something that almost looked like a smile. "We'll see," he said. Two alien guards stepped forward and placed glowing cuffs on her wrists. The energy burned slightly, but not enough to hurt. Just enough to remind her she was trapped. She was pulled toward the ship as Rylan followed. The city burned behind them, the screams fading into silence as the ramp closed. Emily looked one last time at her home. Broken, lost, but still hers. She swore she would escape. No matter what it took inside the alien ship, everything glowed softly blue. The air was heavy, filled with an electric hum. Emily stumbled as the ship lifted into the sky. Through a small window, she saw Earth shrinking beneath them. Her heart ached, but her eyes stayed hard. Rylan stood beside her, watching her reaction. "You humans," he said. "You fight even when you've already lost." She turned her head toward him, voice steady. "Maybe that's why we're still here." For the first time, his expression changed, not anger, not amusement, but something else, something like respect. He said nothing more as the ship disappeared into the stars. Emily sat alone in the glowing cell, thinking about the man who had taken her, the warlord who called her his. She didn't know why he wanted her, but she knew one thing. She would never surrender. Even among the stars, she would fight. And somewhere deep in the silence of space, Commander Rylan looked out the viewport. His hand tightened on the rail. He could still feel her defiance, and it made him smile. "This one," he whispered, "will change everything." Emily woke to silence. Not the quiet of peace, but the strange stillness of something alien. The floor beneath her was smooth and cold, glowing faintly blue. When she opened her eyes, she saw walls made of metal that seemed alive. moving like a slow heartbeat. The air smelled different, sharp and clean, like lightning before a storm. For a moment she didn't move. Her head ached, and her wrists still burned where the glowing cuffs had been. Then she remembered. The battle, the capture, the Warlord's eyes. Her heart jumped in her chest. She sat up quickly, looking around for a way out. The room was small, round and almost empty. No doors, no windows. Only faint lines on the walls. When she touched one, it pulsed under her fingers like warm glass. "Where am I?" she whispered to herself. A soft voice replied, but it wasn't human. "You are safe." "Captain Emily Hayes," the voice said, smooth and mechanical. "This chamber is under the protection of Commander Rylan." She froze. Even the sound of his name made her jaw tighten. Safe, she thought bitterly. That's not what this feels like. Suddenly, the wall behind her slid open with a hiss. A tall figure stepped inside. It was Rylan, dressed in dark armor that shimmered like water. His presence filled the room. Calm and commanding, Emily's fists clenched. "What do you want from me?" she demanded. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle. "I want answers," he said, his voice deep and even. "About your species. I'm not your science project," she snapped. He took a slow step forward, and the air between them seemed to hum. "No," he said quietly. "You are something far more valuable." Emily glared at him, but inside fear mixed with curiosity. "What makes me so valuable?" she asked. Rylan's eyes glowed faintly, like the stars outside. "You are human," he said. "And your kind survived 1,000 years of extinction-level wars. Your blood carries resistance no other race has." He paused, his gaze sharp. "It may save my people, or destroy them." She shook her head, confused and angry. "I'm just a soldier," she said. "I can't help you." He turned slightly, his voice almost soft now. "You already are helping me." Before she could ask what that meant, he pressed something on his wrist. The cuffs on her arms vanished in a flash of blue light. Her skin tingled as the marks faded. "Why free me?" she asked slowly. Rylan looked at her, expression unreadable. "Because you are not my enemy," he said. "Not yet." With that he turned and left, the door sealing silently behind him. Emily stood alone, breathing hard. Her instincts told her to run, but there was nowhere to go, so she explored. She pressed her palm against the glowing wall again. This time the surface shifted, revealing a narrow hallway lit by soft blue lights. Cautiously she stepped out. The corridor stretched endlessly, curving like the inside of a living creature. Alien symbols glowed on the walls, pulsing gently with each step she took. As she walked, she passed tall figures, soldiers, scientists, all alien, all silent. They stared but didn't stop her. Some bowed their heads slightly as she passed, and that confused her even more. Why would aliens show respect to a human prisoner? She reached a wide observation deck and stopped in awe. The stars stretched before her like rivers of light. Planets glowed in the distance, and a nearby moon reflected the ship's shadow. For a second, she forgot her fear. She felt small yet alive, like a part of something endless. Then she saw his reflection in the glass. Rylan stood behind her, silent as ever. "You've seen your world from above," he said softly. "Now you see mine." Emily turned slowly, her voice calm but sharp. "You think showing me stars will make me trust you?" He smiled faintly. "No," he said, "but it may help you understand." They stood there staring at each other. Neither spoke for a long moment. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy with something new, something neither wanted to admit. Finally, Emily broke the silence. "You said my blood can save your people," she said. He nodded once. "Your biology resists the toxin that is killing my race." He looked away, voice lower. "I need your help, Captain Hayes. But I will not force it." Emily didn't know if she believed him. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something strange. Not cruelty, not pride, but loneliness. Before she could reply, alarms began to echo through the ship. Red lights flashed and the floor trembled. Rylan touched his ear, speaking in a fast alien tongue. He turned to her with sudden urgency. "Stay here," he ordered. But Emily had already stepped forward. "What's happening?" she asked. He looked at her, his voice hard again. "Someone has attacked us." The door sealed between them. Leaving her alone in the glowing light, she could feel the ship shaking, hear the muffled sounds of battle. Her heart raced. Something told her this was only the beginning. Whatever was happening out there, and it was connected to her. And for the first time, Emily felt a strange truth forming deep inside her chest. She wasn't just a prisoner anymore, she was part of something far greater, something that would change both their worlds forever. The ship trembled again, the floor pulsing under Emily's feet like a heartbeat gone wild. She stumbled forward, her hand grabbing the glowing wall for balance. Through the wall, she could hear faint explosions. Like distant thunder, voices echoed in the alien language she didn't understand. But fear didn't need translation. She knew one thing. The ship was under attack. Emily looked toward the sealed door where Rylan had left. For a moment, she thought about staying still like he told her. But her soldier's instinct screamed against it. She could not sit and wait for death. She pressed her palm to the wall again, and the surface flickered. To her surprise, a small panel opened, showing a narrow passage lit by red emergency lights. She didn't hesitate, she stepped in. The corridor was tight and curved, metal plates shaking around her. She moved fast, trying to remember the path she had seen earlier. When the next blast hit, she fell to her knees, the lights flickering out in the darkness. She heard heavy footsteps, alien boots. She held her breath. Then a hand grabbed her arm, pulling her into a side chamber. She gasped, ready to fight, but it was him. Rylan stood in the dim light, armor scratched, his expression tense. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice sharp but not cruel. "I told you to stay put." "I'm not good at sitting still," she said. Catching her breath, he stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head slowly. "You humans," he muttered, almost to himself. "Always running toward danger." The ship shook again, and sparks rained from the ceiling. Rylan grabbed her hand without thinking, pulling her close to shield her from the falling debris. For a moment, their faces were inches apart. Emily could feel the heat of his skin, the strange rhythm of his pulse. Faster, heavier than human, their eyes met, and time slowed. It was only a second, but it felt longer. Then he let go and turned away. His voice controlled again. "We need to move." Now, they ran through the smoke-filled corridors. Rylan tapped the side of his helmet, calling out commands in his language. "Who's attacking you?" Emily asked between breaths. He looked at her as if deciding whether to tell the truth. "My own kind," he said finally. "They believe I've betrayed them. Because of me," she guessed. He didn't deny it. They reached a lift chamber, and as the door closed, Emily could see flashes of battle below. Alien soldiers firing energy weapons, blue light cutting through the haze. The ship was at war with itself. Rylan stood tall, but Emily could see the strain in his eyes. "How many of them?" she asked quietly. "Enough to destroy us both," he replied. When the lift stopped, they stepped into a quiet section of the ship, the control nexus. The lights flickered, and the room was filled with glowing holograms showing battle maps and power lines. Rylan began working fast, his fingers moving across the console. Emily watched the screens, not understanding the symbols but reading the fear in his movements. "You're losing," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "I don't lose," he replied. But his voice was tight. She moved closer. "You can't fight them alone." He turned toward her then, his eyes blazing. "I'm not alone," he said. She realized he meant her. For a moment, neither spoke. The lights dimmed, and a deep hum filled the air. Rylan pressed a control, and a shimmering shield spread across the room. "Force field," he said. "They won't find us here." Emily exhaled slowly, feeling her heartbeat slow down. The silence after the chaos felt heavy. She looked at him, the alien warlord who had captured her. Now he looked less like a conqueror, more like a man fighting against his own fate. "Why protect me?" she asked quietly. Rylan paused before answering. "When I first saw you on your planet," he said, "you stood alone against an army. No fear, no surrender. That kind of strength is rare." Emily looked away, unsure how to respond. "I was only doing my job," she murmured. Rylan stepped closer, his voice softer now. "Maybe," he said. "But your courage has already changed something in me." She met his eyes again, feeling something shift in her chest. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it wasn't hate either. Something else. Something she couldn't name. Before she could speak, the lights blinked red again. A metallic voice echoed through the ship. "Security breach. Sector 7 compromised." Rylan cursed under his breath. "They're trying to break the shield," he said. He turned to Emily, his tone urgent. "If we are caught, they will kill you." She nodded, steady and calm. "Then we better not get caught." He stared at her for a moment, then gave a small, rare smile. "You're starting to sound like a warrior of Zarthon," he said. "And you're starting to sound a little human," she replied. The walls shook again, lights flashing in rhythm with the pounding outside. As the ship roared around them, Emily realized something strange. Even surrounded by war, she didn't feel afraid anymore. She looked at him, this alien who was supposed to be her captor, and saw the same fire that lived inside her. Maybe, she thought, they were both prisoners of the same fate. Outside the door, footsteps grew louder. Ryland drew his weapon, his voice low and certain. "Stay behind me, Captain Hayes." Emily picked up a fallen blaster from the floor, gripping it tight. "I don't hide behind anyone," she said. Ryland's eyes glowed brighter. "Then fight beside me," he said, and for the first time, they stood together, human and alien, enemies by blood, allies by choice. The bond had begun. The sound of battle faded slowly, replaced by the low hum of the ship's engines. Emily leaned against the wall, her heart still racing. Smoke curling through the air like thin ghosts. Ryland stood near the control console, breathing hard, his armor scorched from the fight. They had survived another attack. But the danger was far from over. When the lights steadied again, she looked at him closely. For the first time, he didn't look like a warlord. He looked tired. The glow in his eyes was dimmer now, the steel in his posture softer. There was something human about the way he leaned against the wall. Silent and lost in thought, Emily stepped closer, her voice quiet. "You keep fighting your own people," she said. "Why?" Ryland didn't answer right away. He turned his gaze toward the viewport where the stars shimmered like cold fire. Then he spoke slow and heavy. "Because they forgot what we were." Emily frowned. "What does that mean?" Ryland's jaw tightened. "Long before your world was known to us, Zarthon was a proud empire," he said. "We believed in honor, in protecting the weak, in unity." His voice grew darker. "But power changes everything." He touched a mark on his armor, a symbol glowing faintly. "My father was a warlord too," he continued. "He ruled with wisdom, but others wanted control. They poisoned our people with fear of extinction. They said we must conquer or die." Emily listened, her anger slowly fading into curiosity. "So you became a conqueror," she said. He nodded once. "I became what they made me." Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Ryland turned toward her, his eyes meeting hers. "When I saw your planet," he said quietly, "I saw what we once were. Flawed, chaotic, divided, but alive. There is something in humans that refuses to surrender, even when everything is lost." He paused, his voice softer. "That spirit is what I tried to protect, but they call it weakness." Emily didn't know what to say. She had expected a monster, not a man haunted by his own people. "You risked everything," she said. "For me?" Ryland looked down, his expression unreadable. "Maybe not just for you," he said, "but because of you." Before she could answer, a faint sound echoed through the corridor. Footsteps. He moved quickly, touching the control panel, and the walls shifted, hiding them behind a mirrored barrier. Two alien officers walked past, their voices low and tense. Emily caught fragments of their words. Traitor, human female, death order signed. Her breath caught. They were hunting her. When the sound faded, Ryland lowered the shield again. "You see," he said quietly, "they will not stop until you are gone." Emily crossed her arms. "Then maybe you should let me go." Ryland's head snapped toward her. "Never," he said, his tone sharp, then softer, almost regretful. "If they capture you, they'll use your DNA to create something far worse than me." Emily's chest tightened. "So I'm not just your prisoner," she said. "I'm your weapon." Ryland stepped closer, his eyes fierce. "No," he said. "You are my choice." The words hung in the air. Heavy and confusing, she didn't know whether to be angry or moved. He turned away before she could answer. "The ship will reach the outer ring soon," he said. "A safe zone. For now." Emily followed him through the quiet corridors. The damage from the battle was clear. Walls scorched, soldiers wounded, the smell of smoke in the air. Yet every alien who saw Ryland bowed in silence. Even those who doubted him, his presence demanded respect. But she could see the loneliness in it too. When they reached the upper deck, she saw something that stole her breath. Through the massive glass dome stretched the heart of the galaxy, swirling colors of blue and gold, stars moving like rivers of fire. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Ryland stood beside her, the starlight painting his face in silver. This is the core of everything we fight for, he said. It reminds me why I still believe in peace. Emily looked at him, her anger melting into quiet understanding. You're not what I thought you were, she said softly. He turned toward her. And what did you think I was, a monster? She whispered. He smiled faintly, not with pride but with sadness. Maybe I am, he said, but even monsters can dream. For a moment, they stood side by side, silent under the endless stars. The air between them felt charged, not with fear but something warmer, something alive. She didn't trust him completely, not yet, but something in her heart had begun to change. When she looked at him, she no longer saw the enemy. She saw a man trapped between duty and desire, power and guilt, and she wondered if maybe she was trapped too. Suddenly, an alert rang through the bridge. Sharp and urgent, a hologram appeared, showing a fleet approaching. Dozens of enemy ships. Ryland's eyes hardened instantly. They found us, he said. Emily took a step closer. What will you do? His answer was simple. Whatever it takes to keep you alive. The lights dimmed to red. The stars outside swallowed by the glow of approaching war. As the alarms echoed through the ship, Emily felt her pulse quicken. For the first time, she didn't know if she wanted to escape him or stand beside him, and deep inside her chest something new began to grow. A fragile bond, stronger than fear, brighter than hate. The bond between a human and an alien who no longer knew which side he belonged to. The ship was quiet, too quiet, Emily could feel it. The stillness before something terrible. She followed Ryland through the dim corridors, the air thick with the scent of metal and smoke. Everywhere she looked, soldiers repaired walls, patched power lines, and whispered nervously. They were afraid, but not of her. They were afraid of what was coming. Ryland stopped near a sealed door, pressing his palm to the control panel. The door opened with a deep hiss, revealing a dark chamber filled with glowing data screens. This is the command core, he said quietly. No one but my inner council is allowed here. Emily stepped in, her eyes catching strange alien symbols floating in the air like light dust. What are you hiding, Ryland? She asked. Half teasing, half serious, he didn't answer right away. He looked at her, his face unreadable. I trust you, he said finally, and that may be my greatest mistake. Before she could respond, the lights flickered, an alarm flashed red across the walls. Ryland's expression changed instantly, cold, sharp, alert. He turned to the console, his fingers flying across it. Emily watched as a hologram appeared, showing a group of alien ships moving toward them. They're our own, she whispered. He nodded grimly. Yes, he said, but they no longer follow me. Suddenly the hologram flickered, and a new image formed. It was a face, harsh, scarred and familiar. Ryland stiffened. Commander Varkos, he muttered. The voice from the hologram was low and cruel. Ryland of House Vera, it said. You have broken the code of our kind. You fight for a human. You betray your blood, you will die for it. Emily's heart pounded. Ryland didn't reply, his jaw tight. Varkos leaned closer to the screen. We are boarding your ship, he said, and we will take what belongs to Zarthon. The screen went dark. Ryland turned toward Emily, his voice calm but heavy. You need to hide, he said. She shook her head. No. I fight with you. He almost smiled, always defiant, he said softly. But his eyes held fear, not for himself, for her. The door burst open before he could speak again. Armed aliens flooded the room. Weapons raised, Ryland moved like lightning, his blade humming with blue fire. Emily grabbed a blaster from the console and fired beside him. Energy bolts filled the room, sparks flying like stars. One by one, the attackers fell, but more kept coming. Ryland shouted something in his language, the sound fierce and commanding. The soldiers hesitated, just for a heartbeat, enough for him to strike. Then a voice echoed through the corridor. Enough! Ryland froze. From the shadows stepped Commander Varkos, taller, darker, eyes burning like red fire. He held a strange weapon that crackled with black light. Brother, Varkos said, his tone mocking. Yes, Ryland replied, his voice cold. Brother by blood, enemy by choice. Emily's breath caught. Brother, it suddenly made sense, the same features. The same strength, but two opposite hearts. Varkos's gaze turned to her. So this is the human, he said. The reason you turned against your people. Emily raised her weapon. Stay away from me, she warned. Varkos laughed, a low, cruel sound. Brave little creature, he said. You don't even know what you are worth. He aimed his weapon at her, but Ryland stepped between them. Don't touch her, Ryland growled. Varkos sneered. You protect her more than your own kin. She's more than kin, Ryland said. She's hope. Before anyone could move, Varkos fired. The blast hit Ryland's armor, sending him crashing into the wall. Emily screamed his name, firing back, but the weapon flew from her hand. She ran to him, falling to her knees. He was bleeding, silver light leaking from the cracks in his armor. Varkos stepped closer, smirking. Now you understand, human, he said. Your presence brings death to everything he loves. Emily's hands trembled as she touched Ryland's shoulder. He opened his eyes, weak but focused. Run, he whispered. She shook her head fiercely. No, she said. I won't leave you. Something in her voice made Varkos pause. She reached for the console behind her, pressing random keys. Suddenly, alarms blared again. She had activated the ship's defense grid. Varkos turned in surprise as energy walls closed around him. He roared, slamming his weapon against the shield. Emily helped Ryland to his feet. He looked at her with disbelief. You risked everything, he said, his voice rough. She smiled faintly. Guess I learned from you. Ryland touched her hand, his grip weak but steady. Emily, he said, listen to me. If we don't leave now, he'll break through. She nodded, helping him walk toward the escape bay. Behind them, Varkos shouted in fury. You can't run forever, brother, his voice echoed. I will hunt you both till the stars burn out. They reached the bay just as the defense grid flickered and failed. Ryland pressed a button on his wrist and a small fighter ship powered up. They stumbled inside, the door closing behind them. Through the glass, Emily saw Varkos breaking free. Eyes blazing with hate, the ship launched into the void. Engines roaring, Emily sat beside Ryland, her hand gripping his arm. His eyes met hers. Pain and pride mixed together. You saved me, he said quietly. No, she replied softly. We saved each other. The stars stretched before them like rivers of light. But Emily knew one truth, and this wasn't over. Behind them a fleet burned, and ahead of them waited the unknown. And somewhere deep in her heart she realized something had changed. The line between captor and protector, between alien and human, had blurred forever. The bond had become something stronger, something neither of them could escape. The stars outside the small fighter ship glowed cold and endless. Ryland sat in the pilot's seat, one hand pressed against his side where silver blood still leaked through cracked armor. Emily wrapped a strip of fabric around the wound, her hands trembling but steady enough to help. He winced but said nothing, his jaw set in silence. For a while neither spoke. Only the sound of the engines filled the air like a whisper through metal. Finally, Emily said quietly, He was your brother. Ryland nodded once, eyes fixed on the black space ahead. Yes, he said. And now he will never stop hunting us. The words hung between them like a shadow. Emily sat back, her thoughts spinning. She should hate him, she reminded herself. He had destroyed her world. But after everything, the battles, the truth, the pain, hate no longer fit. Something deeper had taken its place, something confusing and dangerous. Hours passed before Ryland spoke again. There is a station ahead, he said. Neutral ground. We can land, repair the ship, and find medicine. Emily nodded, but her heart was uneasy. She knew every place that promised safety also held new danger. When they landed, the station lights were dim. Alien traders and soldiers from different worlds moved through the narrow halls. Their eyes followed Emily, some curious, others full of disgust. Humans were rare here, and being beside a Zarthon warlord made her look like a traitor to all. She stayed close to Ryland as they entered a private chamber guarded by his loyal soldiers. Inside waited the Council of Zarthon, 3 figures in dark robes, faces hidden behind masks of silver. Ryland bowed slightly, pain flashing in his eyes. Emily felt the weight of their gaze fall on her like cold stone. So, one of them said, voice like steel, the rumors are true. The great Commander Ryland protects a human. Ryland straightened, his tone controlled. She carries what our people need to survive. She is not the enemy, another counselor hissed softly. Your compassion has blinded you. She carries corruption, not salvation. Emily felt anger rise in her chest. She stepped forward, voice steady. I never asked for this, she said. I didn't choose to be part of your war. But I will not stand by while you destroy each other. The counselor turned toward her. Silence, human, he said sharply. But Ryland's hand came up, stopping him. She speaks truth, Ryland said. You all fear what you do not understand. The chamber filled with tension, Then the eldest counselor leaned forward, his tone low and cruel. "There is only one path to peace, Rylan," he said. "The human must die." Emily froze. Rylan didn't move, his entire body rigid like stone. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice low. "You heard us," the counselor replied. "If she lives, Varkos will return with the fleet and burn everything we have left. Her death will bring unity." Emily's heart pounded. For a moment she almost believed it. She saw the faces of the wounded soldiers, the fear in their eyes. Maybe she was the reason for all this pain. But when she looked at Rylan, she saw something else, the fight still burning inside him. He stepped forward, eyes blazing with blue fire. "If you touch her," he said, "I will burn your ships myself. You call me traitor," he continued, "but I am the only one who still remembers who we are." His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. The counselors drew back, their silence heavy. Emily whispered, "Rylan, stop, they'll kill you." He turned toward her. "I don't care," he said simply. "You are under my protection. No one will harm you." The guards moved instantly, weapons raised. Rylan drew his blade, his body trembling with exhaustion but his stance unbroken. Emily stepped in front of him. "Please," she said to the council, "don't make him fight his own people again." But the decision had already been made. One of the counselors pressed a command on his wristband. The guards lunged. The next moments were chaos. Blue energy flashed, weapons clashed. Screams filled the room. Rylan fought like a storm, his blade cutting through the air with deadly precision. Emily ducked behind a console, grabbing a fallen weapon. When a guard aimed at Rylan's back, she fired, the blast striking true. For a second, time froze. The counselors stared. Shocked as the guard fell, Rylan looked at her, breathless. "You saved me again," he said. She smiled weakly. "Guess I'm making a habit of it." They backed toward the exit. Smoke filling the air, the counselors shouted orders. But Rylan sealed the door with a strike of his weapon. The two of them ran through the corridors, alarms screaming around them. They reached the ship just as more soldiers appeared. "Go!" Emily shouted. Pushing him into the pilot seat, he hesitated. "You'll come with me," he said. "Always," she answered. The ship roared to life, blasting away from the station as explosions shook the docks. Emily sat beside him, her hand finding his. "What now?" she asked. Rylan looked at her, his expression unreadable but full of resolve. "Now," he said. "We stop running. They wanted a choice," he added quietly, "so I made one." Outside, the stars blurred into streaks of light as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Emily leaned back, exhausted but alive. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. Somewhere deep inside her heart, she knew the war was far from over. But she also knew this. Together, they were stronger than destiny itself. And whatever awaited them next would test not just their courage, but the fragile, growing love between human and alien. The stars stretched like rivers of silver across the endless dark. The small ship drifted quietly through hyperspace, glowing faintly against the ocean of light. Inside, Emily sat beside Rylan, her hands resting on her knees. Her mind full of questions. They had escaped death again. But this time it felt different. It felt like the calm before something far greater. Rylan's face was pale, his wounds still healing. Yet his eyes were sharp, alive, burning with a quiet fire. He didn't speak for a long time. Emily watched him, the hum of the ship filling the silence between them. Finally, she said softly, "You risked everything for me." Rylan turned his head slightly, his voice low and steady. "You are not a risk, Emily," he said. "You are the reason I still fight." She looked away, her heart caught between warmth and fear. "We can't keep running forever," she said. "They'll follow us again." He nodded slowly. "They will," he said. "And when they do, we will be ready." Something in his tone made her shiver. Not fear, but certainty. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near a shattered moon. The fragments of rock floated like glowing islands, surrounded by mist and starlight. "This place," Rylan said, "was once the capital of our first alliance, before greed destroyed it." Emily looked out the window, mesmerized by the beauty and sadness of it. "Why bring me here?" she asked. Rylan's eyes glowed softly. "Because it is where I make my stand," he said. "And where you make your choice." Her heartbeat quickened. "What choice?" she asked. He stood, moving closer, his shadow stretching across the metal floor. "You can leave," he said quietly, "and return to what remains of your world, or stay, and help me end this war." His words were simple, but his eyes told another story, a plea he couldn't speak aloud. Emily rose slowly, standing face to face with him. Her voice trembled not from fear but from the weight of the moment. "You said I was your choice," she whispered. "What does that really mean?" Ryland took a step closer. His gaze locked on hers. "It means you are my equal," he said. "My strength, my reason." His hand brushed hers, the touch electric. "It means you are mine," he added softly. "Not as a prisoner, but as my mate." The words hung in the air like a spark before lightning. Emily's breath caught. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to stay. "You can't claim me," she said quietly. "I don't belong to anyone," Ryland smiled faintly. Not with arrogance, but with something deeper. "Then let me belong to you," he said. Silence fell between them, heavy and tender. Outside, the starlight flickered against the ship's hull like falling snow. Emily didn't speak, but the truth already filled her heart. Somewhere between hate and hope, she had found something real, something stronger than the war that had begun it all. Before she could answer, an alarm blared through the cockpit. Ryland turned sharply, his expression hardening. A fleet had appeared on the radar, hundreds of ships. Barcos had found them. The shadow of war had returned. "Prepare the defense grid," Ryland ordered, his voice cold again. Emily ran to the controls, her hands steady. "Can we win?" she asked. Ryland looked out the window, the stars reflecting in his eyes. "Not alone," he said. "But together, maybe." The first blast hit the ship. Shaking it violently, Ryland's soldiers responded with counterfire, beams of blue light slicing through the darkness. Emily held on to the console as the ship trembled. She glanced at him. "Tell me what to do," she shouted. He smiled faintly. "Just don't stop fighting," he said. Hours felt like seconds as the battle raged. The ship spun between enemy fire, explosions lighting the void through it all. Emily and Ryland fought side by side, their movements one rhythm, one purpose. Then, a final blast struck the rear engine. The ship lurched, alarms screamed. Ryland grabbed the controls, forcing the vessel to stabilize. "If we fall together," he said. The ship dived into the mist of the shattered moon. The enemy fleet close behind. Ryland activated the core reactor, setting a massive energy field around them. "This will end it," he said. Emily's eyes widened. "You'll die if you do that," she whispered. He looked at her, calm and sure. "Then I die for something worth dying for," he said. She grabbed his arm, tears burning her eyes. "No," she said. "Not like this." He touched her face gently. "You gave me something no war ever could," he said. "Peace. And you gave me something no human ever did," she whispered. "Hope." The reactor pulsed, filling the room with blinding white light. Ryland leaned close, his voice a whisper that trembled in her heart. "You're mine, human," he said. "Whether the stars like it or not." Emily smiled through tears. "Then I'm yours," she said. "But only if you promise to survive." The light exploded, covering everything. Silence followed, deep, endless silence. When Emily opened her eyes, she was floating among stars. The ship's systems flickered weakly. Ryland lay beside her. Breathing faintly, alive, the fleet was gone. The war ended in one final burst of sacrifice. She looked at him, her voice soft as starlight. "You did it," she whispered. His eyes opened slowly, a faint smile on his lips. "No," he said weakly. "We did." As the light of the distant sun bathed their faces, Emily realized what they had become. Not enemies, not captor and captive, but two souls bound by the fire of destiny. The galaxy had changed forever. And in the quiet after war, one truth remained. Love, no matter how impossible, could rewrite the stars.